Dr. Samuel Hayes lived on the edge of a small town in a house that also served as his clinic. His home was surrounded by open fields, where wildflowers grew in the spring and the wind whispered through tall grass. The townspeople often said he had a gentle soul, someone who saw the world differently from others. His days were long, filled with the sick and the injured, but he never complained. For him, every patient was a story, a life worth understanding and caring for. One bright morning, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold, Dr. Hayes was tending to his garden. He carefully trimmed the edges of the flower beds, humming softly to himself, when a visitor arrived. It was a messenger from the nearby Apache community. The man looked serious, his eyes carrying urgency and concern. He explained that a young girl named Ayanna had been injured. She had fallen while fetching water from a river and had been unable to move her legs since. The family and community leaders were worried that she might never walk again. Dr. Hayes listened attentively. He had heard stories of the Apache people, their courage, and their rich traditions. He had also heard that some settlers feared them without reason, often misunderstanding their ways. But fear had never guided him. Compassion did. He nodded and promised to help. "I will do everything I can," he said. The messenger's face softened slightly, and he left with a look of cautious hope. Dr. Hayes felt a quiet determination stir inside him. This was not just another case. It was a life depending on his skill and heart. The doctor immediately began preparing. He cleaned every surface of his small clinic space, arranged his instruments carefully, and gathered supplies. There were old books and medical manuals on his shelves, some worn from years of study, others filled with notes he had written himself. He flipped through them, looking for guidance, reminding himself that patience and careful observation were as important as skill. His hands moved with precision as he set up for the treatment. Every detail mattered, from the softness of the cloths to the lighting in the room. He wanted Ayanna to feel safe, calm, and encouraged. When Ayanna arrived later that day, she was carried gently by her father. The girl's eyes were wide, filled with both fear and curiosity. She had a quiet strength, even in her fragile state. Dr. Hayes knelt to meet her gaze. "We're going to try something together," he said softly. "I will help you, and I need you to trust yourself and me." He could see the tiny spark of hope ignite in her eyes. He believed that trust was the first step toward healing. The first hours were challenging. Ayanna could not move her legs at all, and even the simplest exercises caused frustration and tears. But Dr. Hayes never raised his voice or showed impatience. He encouraged her gently, praising every small movement. "Even a wiggle counts," he said, smiling warmly. He taught her to breathe deeply, to focus on small goals, and to believe in her body's ability to respond. He explained each step in simple words, letting her understand what was happening. He wanted her to feel in control, even when her body felt powerless. Outside the window, the sun began to dip, casting long shadows across the fields. Dr. Hayes continued working with Ayanna, trying different techniques, adjusting his approach as he observed her reactions. He used a combination of exercises and gentle massages, all designed to stimulate movement and build confidence. Hours passed like minutes. There were moments of quiet tension when progress seemed impossible, but he reminded himself that healing was rarely instant. It required patience, care, and unwavering belief in the person before him. As night fell, the doctor lit a small lantern in the room. Its warm glow made the space feel safe and inviting. Ayanna sat on a soft mat, exhausted but determined. Dr. Hayes spoke to her about hope and courage, telling stories of people who had overcome challenges much bigger than hers. He reminded her that setbacks were normal and that her determination was her greatest strength. Ayana listened, absorbing every word, her fear slowly giving way to a tentative sense of possibility. By midnight, a small miracle began to take shape. Ayana managed to lift one leg slightly, a tiny movement that made both her and the doctor smile. It was a breakthrough, a sign that her body was responding. Dr. Hayes stayed by her side, guiding her through each attempt, adjusting his instructions to match her energy. He could see the relief on her father's face, though he remained quiet, watching respectfully. There was an unspoken understanding that this was not just a medical procedure. It was a moment of trust and connection between two worlds. Hours blended into one another, and the night grew deeper. Dr. Hayes remained focused, taking breaks only when necessary, drinking water quietly, and then returning to Ayana's side. The girl's laughter began to emerge as she discovered she could move more than before. The room, once tense and quiet, now held a sense of excitement and hope. Every tiny movement was celebrated. Dr. Hayes believed that encouragement was as powerful as medicine, and in that gentle balance, real progress was being made. Before the first light of dawn, Ayana tried standing with support. Dr. Hayes held her hands firmly, guiding her balance, while her father steadied her from behind. The first steps were shaky, uncertain, but they were steps nonetheless. The joy in Ayana's eyes was uncontainable. Tears streamed down her face, but they were tears of happiness. Dr. Hayes felt a deep satisfaction, knowing that this was more than a physical healing. It was a moment of restored hope and courage. As the sun's first rays lit the room, the doctor stepped back to let her try again, giving her more independence. Ayana took several steps, each one stronger than the last. Her laughter filled the air, mingling with the morning light. Dr. Hayes watched silently, proud but humble. He knew that the real hero was the girl herself, her determination, her courage, and her willingness to trust. By the time the town began to wake, word of the doctor's efforts had spread quietly through the Apache community. They spoke in whispers, sharing the story of a man who had shown kindness and skill, someone who had bridged the gap between two very different worlds. Dr. Hayes, exhausted but content, knew that this was only the beginning of a story that would unfold in ways he could not yet imagine. He cleaned the clinic, prepared breakfast, and reflected quietly on the night's work. The garden outside seemed brighter, the world more alive. He thought about how small acts of care could create ripples far beyond what anyone could see. And in the quiet moments, he felt a deep sense of purpose. His hands had helped a girl walk again, but his heart had connected with a community in ways that medicine alone could never achieve. Dr. Hayes did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he was ready. For now, he savored the quiet joy of seeing a young life rekindled, a spark that could not be extinguished. And he understood in that moment that true healing was as much about hope and trust as it was about skill and knowledge. The morning after Ayana first managed to stand, the sun rose slowly over the horizon, spilling warm light across Dr. Hayes's small clinic. Birds chirped outside, and the gentle breeze carried the smell of fresh grass and wildflowers. The doctor had barely slept, but exhaustion felt secondary to the quiet excitement in the house. Ayana had slept peacefully on a soft mat, her small hands clutching a blanket tightly. For the first time in many weeks, she had moved her legs freely and dreamed without fear. Dr. Hayes moved quietly, careful not to disturb her. He made a small breakfast of porridge and warm milk, preparing a cup for himself as well. Though his body ached from the long night of work, he felt lighthearted. The glow of accomplishment mingled with the hope that Ayana's recovery could continue. Her father sat nearby, eyes filled with gratitude, but also a quiet concern. He had seen his daughter suffer for too long, and he had witnessed the first sparks of something miraculous. After breakfast, Dr. Hayes helped Ayana stretch and practice walking a little more. This time she had more confidence, and her steps were steadier. The doctor held her hands loosely, letting her feel that she could balance without constant support. Every movement brought a new smile, a new sense of freedom. "You're stronger than you know," he said softly. Ayana's small voice rang with determination. "I want to walk like I used to, Dr. Hayes." Her words were simple, but they carried courage beyond her years. As they continued, Dr. Hayes noticed the sun climbing higher, and he realized that the sounds of horses were growing louder outside. At first, he thought it was merely townspeople passing through. Then he saw movement in the distance, riders approaching. One by one, their numbers increased until a small group became a larger formation. He felt a sudden tension rise within him. Something was unusual. The riders moved with a purpose, circling the area around his home in a way that was both organized and deliberate. Ayana's father noticed too. He stepped outside, his face serious as he observed the approaching figures. "Dr. Hayes," he said quietly, "these are Apache riders, many of them." The doctor's heart skipped a beat. 500? Could it really be that many? He had heard of the Apache's strength and unity, but never had he imagined such a formidable display so close to his home. His mind raced, trying to anticipate their intentions. Were they angry? Were they here to confront him? Or had news of Ayana's recovery traveled quickly, and this was some form of acknowledgement? The riders began to form lines across the main roads leading to Dr. Hayes's property. Every exit was blocked. It was a show of unity and strength, the likes of which he had only read about in history books. From his window, he saw the elders among them, their faces serious but not hostile. Children and young adults sat proudly on their horses, their eyes fixed on the doctor's home. For a moment, he felt a mix of fear and awe. These were people who could be intimidating if they chose to be, but he sensed there was something more in their presence. Dr. Hayes took a deep breath, knowing that his next steps would be crucial. He went outside slowly, hands raised slightly to show he meant no harm. Ayana stayed behind, sitting on a bench with her father beside her. She watched with wide, curious eyes, her small body filled with both excitement and apprehension. The doctor's calm presence seemed to reassure her. One of the elders, a man with long silver hair and a weathered face, rode forward. He stopped at a respectful distance and nodded to Dr. Hayes. The silence was heavy, filled with the sound of horses shifting and the wind moving through the grass. Then the elder spoke, his voice strong yet gentle. "Dr. Hayes," he said, "we have come to see you. We have heard what you have done for Ayana. We wish to honor her recovery and your care." Dr. Hayes felt a wave of relief wash over him. The tension in the air eased slightly, though he remained vigilant. He nodded, understanding the gravity of their presence. "I am honored," he replied, his voice steady. "I only did what I could. It was her courage that healed her." The elder smiled faintly. "In our tradition, acts of healing are sacred. When someone helps one of our children, it is a sign of respect for our people. We show our gratitude and acknowledge the bond that has been formed." The doctor listened carefully. He realized that this gathering was not a threat, but a deeply meaningful display of respect. In the Apache culture, gratitude and honor were expressed through unity and presence. This was a lesson in humility and understanding for him. As the morning sun rose higher, more riders approached, forming a careful perimeter around the property. Dr. Hayes watched, amazed at their discipline and organization. Their horses were strong, their riders alert and attentive. Each person seemed to understand their role, maintaining a balance between formality and reverence. Dr. Hayes reflected on the strength of their community, and he felt a deep respect for their values and traditions. Meanwhile, Ayana's eyes sparkled with curiosity. She had never seen such a large group assembled in her life. She tugged gently at her father's sleeve, whispering, "Papa, are they here to see me?" Her father nodded, a small smile breaking through his serious expression. "Yes, my child. They are here to honor you and the man who helped you." Ayana's face lit up. She felt proud and amazed, realizing that her journey to walk again had touched an entire community. The elder spoke again, calling the riders to attention. "Let us show our gratitude properly," he said. Slowly, a ceremonial rhythm developed. The riders moved in synchronized patterns, their presence a mix of strength and grace. Dr. Hayes watched silently, understanding that this was a language he could not speak with words, but he could feel its meaning in his heart. Every gesture, every movement, was a message of thanks and respect. After several moments, the riders eased their formation, creating a path toward the doctor's home. The elder approached again, gesturing to Dr. Hayes. "Come with me," he said. The doctor stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment. He had never experienced anything like this. Each step toward the elder was measured and respectful, a quiet acknowledgement of the trust and honor that had been extended to him. As they walked, the doctor noticed the subtle details of the riders' expressions: pride, curiosity, respect, and joy. He realized that Ayana's recovery had become a symbol of hope, not just for her family, but for the entire community. The act of healing had created a bridge, one that connected different worlds in a way that words alone could not. Finally, the elder spoke again, his voice gentle but firm. "Dr. Hayes, you have given life to one of our children in a way that goes beyond medicine. You have given her courage, hope, and the chance to walk again. For this, we honor you and the bond that has been formed today." Dr. Hayes felt a lump in his throat. He had helped countless patients in his life, but this moment was different. It was not just about skill. It was about connection, compassion, and understanding across worlds. Ayana watched from the doorway, her small hands pressed together in admiration. She understood, in her simple but wise way, that something extraordinary had happened. Her journey to walk again had inspired an entire community to come together in respect and celebration. She felt proud, and for the first time in weeks, she felt free from fear. The riders began to disperse slowly, leaving a quiet calm in their wake. Dr. Hayes and Ayana's family stood in the soft morning light, reflecting on what had just occurred. The doctor realized that healing was never only about the body. It was about hearts, trust, and shared humanity. Ayana's first steps had not only restored her mobility, but they had also created a story that would be remembered by many for years to come. By the time the sun had fully risen, Dr. Hayes had helped Ayana practice more walking, each step stronger than the last. He cleaned his clinic once more, arranging the space neatly. Outside, the fields looked brighter, almost as if the earth itself had acknowledged the miracle of the morning. He felt a quiet pride, not in himself, but in the courage of a young girl and the generosity of a community willing to honor her journey. As he sat quietly, drinking a cup of warm tea, Dr. Hayes reflected on the events of the morning. He realized that his life had changed, not just for the act of healing, but for the understanding that compassion could bridge differences, that kindness could earn respect, and that courage could inspire an entire community. He looked toward the horizon, imagining the future with hope, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges and new stories, but for now, the morning belonged to Ayana, to her family, and to the quiet joy of healing. The morning sun had risen fully, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and pink, when Dr. Hayes stepped outside to check the garden. His heart had been light just moments before, filled with the quiet joy of seeing Ayana walk again. But now, something felt different. A ripple of unease ran through the air, carried on the gentle breeze that usually brought only calm. As he walked along the edge of his flower beds, he noticed movement in the distance. beyond the fields that stretched toward the horizon. Horses, many horses. At first, he thought it was just a small group traveling through the area, but as he watched more closely, he realized that the horses were approaching with purpose. Riders, dozens, then hundreds, moving in precise formation. Every road leading out of his property seemed to be blocked. Dr. Hayes froze for a moment, his mind racing. Could it be a threat? He had never seen anything like this. He had treated the girl out of kindness, and yet now it seemed the entire Apache community had come to his doorstep. Ayanna's father appeared beside him, his face serious. "Dr. Hayes," he said quietly, "they are many. More than you have ever seen assembled at once. They are blocking every road. Do not make any sudden movements." The doctor nodded, swallowing his nervousness. His mind struggled to anticipate the intentions of the crowd. Were they angry? Or was this some kind of ceremonial gathering? He had heard stories of the Apache people, their strength and their unity, but this display was beyond anything he had imagined. The riders rode slowly, their horses' hooves striking the earth in a steady rhythm that echoed across the fields. From the distance, Dr. Hayes could see the expressions on their faces. There was seriousness, yes, but also something else, something he could not quite name. Pride, perhaps, or anticipation. They were silent, disciplined, moving as a single unit. It was both intimidating and awe-inspiring. The doctor's heart pounded in his chest, yet he reminded himself to stay calm. Panic would do no good here. He turned back to Ayanna and her father. The girl stood with a mix of curiosity and fear, her small hands gripping the edge of the doorway. Her father placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It is not dangerous," he said softly. "This is their way of showing that they honor you and the man who helped you." Ayanna's eyes widened, a mixture of wonder and disbelief crossing her face. She had never seen such a large group, and the sheer scale of it made her gasp quietly. Dr. Hayes took a deep breath. He knew he had to approach this carefully. He moved slowly toward the edge of his property, hands raised slightly to show that he meant no harm. Each step was measured, deliberate. The rider's attention shifted toward him, and he could feel the weight of their gaze. 500 pairs of eyes focused on him, assessing him, the man who had dared to cross boundaries and offer help. His stomach tightened, but he forced himself to stand tall, to meet their scrutiny with calm. An elder, distinguished by long silver hair and a decorated robe, rode forward. He stopped a respectful distance away, his horse planted firmly on the ground. The silence was thick, almost tangible, stretching across the space between them. The elder's eyes studied Dr. Hayes, searching for something beyond words. Finally, he spoke, his voice deep and steady, carrying across the field. "Dr. Hayes, we have come to see you." The words were simple, yet they held weight. "We have heard what you have done for Ayanna. We come to honor your actions and witness the child you have helped." Dr. Hayes felt a mixture of relief and awe. His first instinct, the fear of being overwhelmed, began to shift into understanding. This was not a threat. This was a demonstration of respect and gratitude, a cultural expression he had never experienced firsthand. He bowed his head slightly in acknowledgement. "I am honored," he said softly. "But it was Ayanna who showed the courage to heal herself. I only guided her." The elder nodded slowly. "Courage is important," he replied. "But acts of healing are sacred in our eyes. When one helps a child, it is a sign of respect to our people. We come together to recognize the bond that has been formed and to honor the life that has been restored." Dr. Hayes listened carefully, absorbing every word. He realized that this gathering was not merely about gratitude, it was about tradition, about the values that held their community together. The riders began to shift, forming a ceremonial pattern around his property. Their movements were synchronized, deliberate, and purposeful. Each horse and rider moved in harmony, creating an unspoken rhythm that communicated respect, unity, and strength. Dr. Hayes watched in awe, understanding that he was witnessing a language he could not speak but could feel in his heart. Every gesture, every placement of horse and rider carried meaning. It was a display of collective acknowledgement, a celebration of life, and a sign of trust. Ayana's eyes followed the movements, her small body tense with excitement and curiosity. She had never seen so many people gathered, nor had she imagined such a formal display of respect for her or the man who had helped her. Her father gently guided her to sit on a nearby bench, explaining quietly, "They honor you, child. They honor the man who helped you walk again. Watch and learn from this moment." Ayana nodded, her wide eyes reflecting awe and wonder. Dr. Hayes approached the elder carefully, taking measured steps across the soft grass. He could feel the intensity of the moment pressing around him, but he stayed composed. The elder raised a hand, signaling for the other riders to hold their positions. The silence returned, heavier than before. Dr. Hayes realized that this was a moment of judgment and acknowledgement combined. The entire community had gathered not only to witness but to decide if the bond formed through his actions was genuine and worthy of recognition. Finally, the elder spoke again, addressing the doctor directly. "Dr. Hayes," he said, "you have done something that crosses boundaries and brings honor to both our peoples. You have given life, courage, and hope. For this, we recognize you." The words were simple, yet they carried a profound depth. Dr. Hayes felt his chest tighten. He had faced many challenges in his life, but none as profound as this, none that tested not only his skill, but his understanding of another culture's values. The riders began to ease their formation slightly, creating a path leading to the doctor's home. Dr. Hayes followed the elder, stepping carefully across the grass. Each step felt deliberate, as if he were part of a ritual he did not fully understand, yet felt honored to witness. The rhythm of the horse's hooves and the quiet strength of the riders filled the space around him. He realized that this moment was not just about him or Ayana. It was about trust, courage, and the power of compassion to create bonds across worlds. Ayana's small voice called from the doorway, "Dr. Hayes, look at them! So many!" Her father smiled, nodding. "Yes, child. They are here to honor you. This is their way of showing gratitude." The girl's eyes sparkled with excitement, and for the first time in weeks, she felt not just the joy of walking, but the wonder of being seen and celebrated. She clapped her hands softly. A small sound that echoed against the calm morning. The elder stopped near the doctor's door, gesturing for him to remain. "Walk with us," he said gently. "Let us honor the life you have touched." Dr. Hayes nodded, understanding the gesture. He walked slowly, each step measured and respectful. The riders maintained their positions, forming a living wall of unity, strength, and recognition. He felt a deep sense of humility. This was more than gratitude. It was a profound lesson in respect, honor, and the power of action, guided by heart. After several moments, the elder spoke one last time. "We have seen your courage and the courage of Ayana. We acknowledge the bond formed today. Let this be remembered, not only for the child, but for the respect shown across our people." Dr. Hayes nodded, humbled. The riders began to disperse slowly, their movements deliberate, leaving behind a quiet calm. He watched as they rode back toward the horizon, disappearing one by one, the soft sound of hooves fading into the distance. He turned back to Ayana and her father. The girl ran toward him, laughing, her steps confident and steady. "Dr. Hayes, I can walk! I can really walk!" she exclaimed. Her father hugged her tightly, eyes filled with pride and gratitude. The doctor smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond professional satisfaction. This was a moment of connection, a shared understanding, and a lesson in the power of kindness, courage, and respect. As the morning unfolded, Dr. Hayes helped Ayanna practice her walking again. Each step was more confident than the last, a testament to her determination and the gentle guidance he had provided. The sun climbed higher, bathing the field in warmth. He looked out at the quiet horizon, reflecting on what had happened. Healing was more than medicine. It was trust, understanding, and the courage to act with heart. Today he had witnessed the extraordinary power of human connection. The quiet that followed the dispersal of the riders was almost overwhelming. Dr. Hayes felt the echoes of their hooves fading into the distance, leaving behind a stillness that seemed both peaceful and heavy. Ayanna ran back and forth on the soft grass, testing her legs and giggling with delight. Her father stood nearby, watching the girl's newfound confidence with pride and relief. But for Dr. Hayes, the morning was not yet over. Something inside him told him that there was more to understand, more to learn from this remarkable encounter. It wasn't long before the elder returned, riding alone this time, his silver hair catching the sunlight. He stopped a few paces away from Dr. Hayes, dismounted carefully, and approached on foot. The elder's eyes, deep and thoughtful, seemed to study not only the doctor's actions, but the intentions behind them. Dr. Hayes bowed slightly in respect. He had already seen the power of this man's presence, and he understood that the elder represented more than authority. He embodied the values, traditions, and wisdom of an entire community. "Dr. Hayes," the elder began, his voice calm but carrying weight, "you have done something remarkable. You have helped a child walk again, and in doing so, you have crossed boundaries between our people and yours. Many would not have the courage to do what you did. We wish to speak with you, to understand not only your actions but your heart." Dr. Hayes nodded, feeling a mixture of humility and curiosity. "I only did what I believed was right," he replied. "Ayanna's courage was greater than mine. I only guided her and gave her hope." The elder listened intently, his eyes reflecting understanding. He motioned for the doctor to walk with him along a small path leading to the edge of the fields. As they walked, the elder spoke of the Apache traditions, explaining that healing was considered sacred. It was not just the act of restoring physical movement, but the recognition of courage, trust, and respect. "When one helps a child," he said, "it is a sign of care for our entire community. The actions of an individual can strengthen bonds that last for generations. This is why we gathered, to show our respect and honor the life you have touched." Dr. Hayes listened, absorbing the wisdom in each word. He realized that this was more than an explanation. It was a lesson in humility and understanding. The elder's words painted a picture of a culture that valued courage and gratitude above all, a culture where actions spoke louder than promises. "I am honored by your words," Dr. Hayes said. "I did not know that my actions would mean so much. I only hoped to help." The elder smiled faintly. "Intentions are important, but understanding and respect are what sustain trust. You approached Ayanna and her family with care, patience, and honesty. That is why they trusted you, and why we came to witness this moment. Trust is fragile, and respect must be earned." The doctor nodded, realizing how easily good intentions could be misunderstood without patience and careful action. They stopped near a small grove of trees, where the elder gestured for Dr. Hayes to sit on a fallen log. The elder did the same, sitting across from him. The quiet of the morning was punctuated by birdsong and the rustle of leaves. It was a serene moment, but charged with significance. Dr. Hayes could feel the depth of the conversation they were about to have, understanding that it went far beyond words or gestures. It was about values, respect, and human connection. "Dr. Hayes," the elder continued, We have seen many come to our land with fear or prejudice. They take what they want and leave little behind. You are different. You acted out of care, without expectation, without fear of our people. That is rare, and it is why we honor you." The doctor felt a warmth in his chest. It was one thing to perform a medical procedure, another to earn trust across a cultural divide. He realized that the elder's words were as much a recognition of his heart as of his skill. The elder then spoke of responsibility. When one acts to help, one must also accept the consequences. Actions can create bonds, but they can also create obligations. You have shown courage and care, but know that this trust carries weight. You are now part of a larger story, one that involves our people, our values, and our traditions. Walk carefully and honor what has been given to you." Dr. Hayes nodded solemnly. He understood that healing was not only about medicine, but about relationships. The trust of a community, once earned, must be treated with respect. He realized that his small act of kindness had ripple effects far beyond the clinic walls, connecting him to Ayanna, her family, and the Apache people in ways he had never imagined. Ayanna's father approached quietly, bowing respectfully to the elder. "Thank you for your wisdom," he said. "Dr. Hayes has done more than heal my daughter. He has given her hope, and for that, we are grateful." The elder nodded, his eyes softening. "Gratitude is a bridge," he said. "It connects hearts and minds across distance and difference. Your daughter's courage brought us here, but the doctor's care allowed that courage to flourish. This is why we honor both." The conversation shifted naturally toward the future. The elder spoke of ways to maintain trust and connection, emphasizing that actions must always be guided by respect and understanding. Dr. Hayes listened carefully, recognizing that this was guidance not only for himself, but for anyone who wished to act with honor. "We teach our young that courage is measured not by fearlessness, but by compassion," the elder said, "and that understanding others is the first step toward peace." As they spoke, Dr. Hayes reflected on his own life. He thought of the patients he had treated, the challenges he had faced, and the many moments when skill alone was not enough. Healing required more. It required patience, empathy, and a willingness to understand the person, their world, and their culture. He realized that Ayanna's journey was not just a story of physical recovery, but a lesson in connection, humanity, and trust. The elder stood slowly, signaling that their discussion was coming to a close. "Remember, Dr. Hayes," he said, "healing is not only about restoring what is broken, it is about nurturing what can grow. You have helped a child walk, but you have also strengthened bonds, inspired hope, and honored life. This is the true measure of your actions." The doctor felt the weight of the elder's words and nodded deeply, feeling gratitude, humility, and a renewed sense of purpose. As the elder mounted his horse and prepared to leave, he turned to Dr. Hayes once more. "Walk carefully in the days to come. Honor what you have been given and teach others through your actions. This is how trust is sustained and how respect is earned." Dr. Hayes watched as the elder rode away, the sunlight glinting off the horse's coat, disappearing slowly into the distance. The quiet that remained was profound, filled with reflection and understanding. Ayanna ran to Dr. Hayes, her small hands grabbing his coat. "Dr. Hayes, will they come again?" she asked, her eyes bright with curiosity and hope. The doctor smiled gently. "Perhaps, child," he said, "but they will always remember what you have done and what we shared today. Trust and respect are things that last longer than any visit." Her face lit up with a smile, and she took his hands, ready to practice walking again. Her father approached, placing a hand on the doctor's shoulder. "Thank you," he said quietly, "not just for helping Ayanna, but for showing care, patience, and respect. You have earned a place in our hearts." Dr. Hayes felt a profound warmth at those words. It was not a reward he had sought, but it was deeply meaningful. He realized that healing was never only about medicine. It was about connection, understanding, and acting with integrity. Together, they walked back toward the small house, Ayanna taking careful steps under the watchful guidance of her father and Dr. Hayes. The morning air was fresh and filled with promise. The events of the past hours had changed something inside the doctor. He understood that the simple act of helping a child had created a story of courage, respect, and gratitude that would be remembered far longer than any one moment. As they entered the house, Dr. Hayes looked around his modest clinic, realizing that the space had witnessed something extraordinary. Healing had occurred, not just of the body, but of hearts and spirits. He understood that every act of kindness, every moment of care could create ripples far beyond what one could see. And in that quiet reflection, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to face the challenges and joys that lay ahead. The day continued, filled with gentle exercises, laughter, and quiet conversation. Ayanna's confidence grew with every step, her smile brighter than the morning sun. Dr. Hayes watched, feeling a deep satisfaction that went beyond the joy of her physical recovery. This was about trust, understanding, and the bond that had been forged across cultures, one that would last a lifetime. The afternoon sun poured its warm light across the fields surrounding Dr. Hayes's home, casting long shadows that stretched toward the horizon. The events of the morning seemed almost unreal, yet the impact of what had happened was tangible in every corner of the small property. Ayanna ran across the lawn, her laughter ringing clear and bright, her steps steady and confident. She no longer needed the support she had relied on the day before. Her legs carried her with the strength of determination and the joy of regained freedom. Dr. Hayes watched her carefully, his heart swelling with pride and relief. The girl who had once been unable to move now sprinted across the grass, spinning in circles and laughing. Each movement was a victory, each smile a testament to her courage and his guidance. He thought of the long night of work, the careful exercises, the gentle encouragements, and the small moments of doubt that had threatened to slow progress. It had all been worth it. Ayanna was walking again, truly walking, and she radiated happiness that no medicine alone could create. Her father stood nearby, watching with quiet amazement. His eyes were filled with gratitude, yet he remained composed, understanding the weight of the moment. "Dr. Hayes," he said softly, his voice tinged with emotion, "you have done more than heal my daughter. You have given her hope, courage, and a chance to live freely again. Our family will never forget what you have done." The doctor shook his head, humbled by the praise. "I only guided her," he replied. "The real strength came from her." Even as the afternoon unfolded peacefully, Dr. Hayes could not stop thinking about the riders, the elder, and the extraordinary display of respect and gratitude he had witnessed. 500 people, united in purpose, had come not to threaten, but to honor a single act of kindness. The memory of their presence, the disciplined rhythm of their horses, and the solemnity of their eyes stayed with him. It was a powerful reminder that actions rooted in compassion could cross boundaries, build trust, and inspire respect across cultures. Ayanna paused in her play and ran to Dr. Hayes, taking his hand. "Dr. Hayes," she said excitedly, "will they come back?" The doctor smiled down at her. "Perhaps," he said gently, "but more importantly, they will always remember what you have done and how you faced this challenge. Trust and respect last longer than any visit or ceremony." The girl's eyes sparkled with understanding, even in her young way, and she nodded eagerly. Her father came closer, placing a firm hand on Dr. Hayes's shoulder. "You have shown more than skill," he said. "You have shown patience, understanding, and respect. These are the things that matter most when building trust. You are now part of our story, and our people will remember this day for generations." The doctor felt a warmth spread through his chest, a deep sense of purpose. He had never expected such a response, yet he understood that this was the truest form of reward, recognition of the heart behind the action, not the action alone. As the afternoon wore on, Dr. Hayes guided Ayanna through more exercises. They practiced walking along uneven ground, stepping carefully over small stones and patches of grass. Each time she stumbled, he was there to encourage her, to remind her that progress was not always linear, but that perseverance would always carry her forward. Her confidence grew with every step. Her laughter returned often, blending with the quiet sounds of the fields and the soft rustling of leaves in the gentle wind. During a brief pause, Dr. Hayes reflected on the day's lessons. Healing was never only about the body, it was about the mind and heart as well. Trust had been built, courage nurtured, and connections formed that transcended words. He understood now that every patient, every life he touched, carried its own story, and that his role was not only to treat, but also to guide, inspire, and respect the humanity of those in his care. As he looked toward the horizon, he imagined the riders returning to their community. He pictured the stories they would tell, the lessons they would share about courage, kindness, and healing. Ayanna's recovery had not only affected her immediate family, but had also resonated throughout the entire community. Her determination, combined with his guidance, had become a symbol of hope, showing what could be achieved when skill and compassion worked together. Evening approached slowly, painting the sky in shades of pink, orange, and violet. The long day had been exhausting, yet it was filled with fulfillment that no fatigue could diminish. Dr. Hayes prepared a simple meal for himself and Ayanna's family, sitting together in quiet conversation. They spoke of small things, plans for the next day, ideas for improving her exercises, and stories of past experiences. The atmosphere was calm, filled with warmth, laughter, and shared understanding. As night fell, Ayanna lay in her small bed, her legs stretched and relaxed. She drifted off to sleep with a sense of peace and accomplishment. Dr. Hayes watched her for a moment, marveling at the resilience of the human spirit. This young girl, once confined by fear and physical limitation, now slept confidently, free to dream and imagine without worry. Her father whispered a soft word of thanks, a gesture that carried more meaning than any words could convey. Dr. Hayes stepped outside, taking a quiet walk through the garden. The stars began to appear, one by one, twinkling in the clear night sky. The fields were bathed in silver moonlight, and the gentle rustling of the trees created a serene backdrop. He thought about the day, about the riders, the elder, and the remarkable courage of a young girl. He realized that healing was not a solitary act. It was a shared journey, one that required trust, understanding, and compassion. In the days that followed, the story of Ayanna's recovery spread quietly but widely. People from the community spoke of Dr. Hayes with respect, not only as a doctor but as a man of integrity and kindness. The Apache people, in particular, honored his actions, and a lasting bond formed between him, Ayanna, her family, and the larger community. Dr. Hayes understood that this was more than recognition. It was a lesson in how small acts of courage and care could ripple outward, touching lives far beyond immediate sight. Ayanna continued to grow stronger each day, her steps becoming steadier, her laughter more frequent, and her confidence soaring. Dr. Hayes guided her patiently, but he also allowed her the space to explore her own abilities. Each achievement, whether small or large, was celebrated. Her father often watched silently, knowing that these moments were precious, not only for her physical recovery, but for the bond they had all formed. Dr. Hayes reflected on the events frequently. He thought about how fear and misunderstanding often kept people apart, how simple acts of kindness could bridge gaps that had existed for generations. He understood that true healing required more than knowledge. It required patience, respect, and the courage to act with compassion, even in the face of uncertainty. In the quiet moments of the night, he would often look up at the stars and remember the elders' words. Healing is not only about restoring what is broken, it is about nurturing what can grow. These words became a guiding principle in his life, a reminder that every patient, every act of care, had the potential to create something far greater than immediate recovery. Ayana's story became a quiet legend within the community. It was told to children as an example of courage, patience, and the power of trust. Her recovery was celebrated not only for the physical achievement, but for the lessons it brought about understanding, compassion, and human connection. Dr. Hayes' name became synonymous with care, humility, and integrity. People spoke of him not just as a doctor, but as a man who had shown how actions guided by heart could leave a lasting impact. As months passed, the bond between Dr. Hayes and the Apache community deepened. Visits were made, stories shared, and lessons passed down through generations. Ayana thrived, not only walking but running, laughing, and exploring the world with freedom and confidence. Her father often stood nearby, his heart full of gratitude, knowing that a simple act of kindness had created a ripple of hope and understanding that would last a lifetime. Dr. Hayes continued his work with patients of all kinds, carrying with him the lessons learned from that extraordinary day. He approached each life with patience, care, and respect, knowing that healing was never only about the body. It was about trust, courage, and the ability to see the humanity in every person. Every patient became a reminder of the power of compassion, every success a testament to the extraordinary potential of human connection. One quiet evening, as the sun set over the horizon and painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Dr. Hayes reflected on the journey he had shared with Ayana and her community. He understood that life's most meaningful moments often came unexpectedly, shaped by courage, trust, and the willingness to act with care. The story of a young girl who once could not walk had become a story of hope, gratitude, and the enduring power of kindness. Dr. Hayes smiled softly, watching Ayana play in the fading light, her laughter blending with the gentle sounds of the evening. He knew that this story, like the countless others he would witness in his life, was a reminder that healing was never just about medicine. It was about hearts, trust, and the bonds formed through care. And in that quiet moment, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had been part of something extraordinary, something that would live on in the hearts of many for years to come.